So it's words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, receiving gifts, and physical touch, right? So those are the 5 love languages. Hey, what's going on? This is Matt Reyes again with Marathon Marriage, and I just wanted to chat with you about the 5 love languages. Love languages, and I know you've probably heard it before, the different 5 love languages that are out there. But I wanted to bring a nice little spin. I wanted to share with you some stories from how I implement the love languages in my marriage, and hopefully that helps you. You should definitely know your love languages, and hopefully after I go through the 5 love languages, you'll know yours. But really the important thing is that you get to know your spouses. And men, it is super duper important that you make every effort to learn your wife's love language, because that is what's going to help build your intimacy. That is what's going to help things stay well in your marriage for as long as possible. For example, early on in my marriage, mine was gifts, right? I really loved receiving gifts. And I think that was because, I grew up not so well off, just on the, slight side of lower income, I guess. And, we had food stamps when I was younger, I guess WIC, way back in the day, the King Vitamin cereal. I'm not sure if y'all remember King Vitamin cereal, but that cereal was super delish. I love that stuff. But but early on in our marriage, when I finally got a job and my wife had a job also, I loved receiving gifts. I'm like, finally we get to buy some stuff. And so I loved receiving gifts, but that kind of changed. I'm like, yeah, these gifts aren't really doing it for me. But now it's really more about quality time with my wife. So I really love quality time. Words of affirmation are way high. I would say that's the top one for me. So it's words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, receiving gifts, and physical touch, right? So those are the 5 love languages. And my wife, her biggest love language is quality time. Let's start with that one, right? Quality time. So I make every effort I can to go on a quality date night with my wife at least once a month. Now, I say once a month, you may be going on date nights less frequently, maybe once every other month, or you may be even going on dates sooner, like every other week or every week, and just depending on your season. So right now we have 3 kids, they're in activities. She has a job, I'm working, building a business. And so, I do what I can to get a date night in once a month. And then on top of that, we don't live near family. So because we don't live near any family, we have to pay for a babysitter. So before we even get out the door to get to that romantic spot to have this amazing dinner or just spend any time talking to each other without kids around, we're dropping like 60, $70, just boom, for 3 to 4 hours. And that's expensive, right? Because then you also have to add the dinner. So minimum, we're looking at like $100, 150 anytime we walk out the door to go out on a date night. I do make an effort to initiate that, to say, hey, when are you off? When's the next time I can take you out? I want to plan a date for us. So the fact that I even mentioned that, it starts, for her, letting her know that I'm thinking about her. So spending quality time with her really, and it also ranks high with me, so it's a win-win for both of us. At the same time, anything that takes away quality time. So if there's moments when we're wasting time, she is not happy with that. She's getting turned off like nobody's business. If we have to spend time in traffic or we have to drive a distance. So for her, like, for most guys, I would say just being in close proximity with somebody, like a drive, is spending time. But my wife's not necessarily a fan for that. I know every wife's is different. I'm just sharing with you what my wife likes. And so she does not like driving to a place. She just wants to be, from point A to point B as fast as possible to start enjoying time at point B. Anything that wastes time in the family or as a couple, and it's not building or edifying or growing the family or bringing us closer, that is a sure way to not happy wife, right? Not happy wife. So I would say if your wife ranks high in quality time, be conscious of what is going to steal time away from y'all. Okay, so another one is physical touch, right? So that's another one that's not really super high on mine, nor is it really high on the wife's. But at the same time, that doesn't mean it's not important, right? So I would say, making every effort to have physical touch, non-sexual, fellas, right? Non-sexual physical affection is something that they're going after. And it can be as easy as when you're sitting next to them on the couch, holding them, holding their hand, giving them a little massage. So my wife, for her, it's not necessarily the long holding or the long cuddling. Sometimes we do that, but it's still like for a period. She just wants to have that feeling on the short term. So it's like, I'm holding her for, maybe a few seconds, right? Maybe 30 seconds max. And then it's like, all right, cool. I got my fill of physical touch. But it's being intentional about it. And then I think the biggest thing so far, if you kind of catch my little trend here so far, it's then letting her know, hey, I just want to hold you for a little bit. Come here so I can hold you. I want to be near you. Hey, can I hold your hand? I just want to feel your skin. I just want to feel your skin against my skin, right? I'm not sure if you remember when you had your baby and they were newly born, and it was like that skin to skin was so important. For me, I remember holding my newborns and they said, Dad, make sure you try to wear button up so then you can, put the baby fresh to your warm skin and it can be skin to skin. To be honest, guys, I don't think we ever, even as adults, especially with the person that you love most, your spouse, ever really truly get away from that skin to skin touch. And your wife is the same way, men. Like, you definitely need to make every effort you can to have the skin to skin contact if you can, whether it's your hands on her arms or, rubbing your hand against her inner thigh. Those moments, or wherever she enjoys to be touched. And that even brings me to my next thing is ask where she enjoys to be caressed, right? In a loving, non-sexual way. And if you don't really know, that's a question you need to ask. And you need to ask as soon as you can when you're having just time together, right? Maybe it's at the end of the day when, all work is put away, the kids are put to bed, and you have time to just talk and get to know each other. And if you make an effort to ask the question on, hey, I really enjoy holding you. How do you like me holding you best? Or how do you enjoy me just touching you and caressing you that's like non-sexual? And if you just get direct, and I know it may be hard if you don't necessarily have that open, honest communication or that ability, you feel like you have that ability to communicate open and honest in that fashion with your wife. If you make the effort to, I am sure she will likely receive it well enough to give you an honest answer, or at least make an effort to think about it, to give you an answer so you can implement that into your daily interactions with your spouse. So that is physical touch. Okay, so the next one is receiving gifts. Now, receiving gifts, like I said before, that used to rank super high with me, and to be honest, it doesn't really anymore, and it never really ranked high with my wife. And so gifts for us really looks different in our marriage. I would say it's almost a very, very thoughtful gifts or handcrafted gifts, believe it or not. Right, so handcrafted gifts are something that my wife really enjoys to receive from me, and I actually made her a Valentine's card for Valentine's Day along with my other kids, and it's something that I honestly enjoy. I'm kind of like semi-crafty on the, just on the lowdown, right? I got it from my mom because she used to make all these crafts when she was when I was younger, and I kind of just picked up on some of those things. And and I like art and designing stuff, so it's fun. It's by no means am I an artist, am I claiming to be, but I just enjoy it, right? So I make her Valentine's cards, right? And so that is the gift I give her. So it does two things. It lets her know that she was on my heart for an extended period of time. I had to think this out and think it through for a period of time. It wasn't something that I just kind of went frivolously to the store, picked it up off the shelf, and I handed over to her, maybe wrapped, maybe I got it wrapped, and it was, to be honest, sometimes very lackluster. And it's okay if your wife enjoys those things. I'm just telling you, my wife doesn't like those things, but your wife could really like the thing that's on the shelf, and you thoughtfully went to go get it. And I think you need to some degree, exploit the fact you're like, hey, I thought about you the other day. I went to go get this gift. I remembered that one time you told me a few months ago or last week that you liked that thing. And I remembered, and I called the store, or I ordered it from somewhere and I brought it in on time. I wrapped it myself, or I spent time to go get it wrapped. And some wives will enjoy you letting them know all the trouble or the process that you went through to get that gift for her, to let her know you were on her mind. So whether you're making something by hand or whether you're going to the store or ordering it online, I think it's the process that you did something special for her, that you made an effort to do something special and unique. So yes, we can get her the gift off the shelf. You can make it by hand, but I do believe most women will enjoy the story that was had, or that was then created by you making the effort to get her that gift that meant something special. So I want to give you a story really quick about a time where I realized quickly that gifts were not my wife's love language. So when we first got married, I would say about 2 years into our marriage, I forgot the occasion. It could have been Valentine's. It could have been not Mother's Day. It could have been Valentine's or some other day. And it may even have been just a random gift that I wanted to put together for her. And so Banana Republic at the time, which is one of our favorite stores. So, but at the time, I was looking online for stuff, and during that season, Banana Republic had this giraffe, like all this giraffe pattern stuff. And my wife has loved giraffes since she was young. She even wrote a report on it when she was in high school. And so that's how much she loves giraffes. And we have a lot of giraffe stuff, here in our home. But at that time, Banana Republic came out with this season of, this whole giraffe theme, right? They had dresses, they had belts, shoes, bags, and they had all these things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I found some things that my wife would love. It's giraffes. She loves giraffes. And so I went through the meticulous process of checking her closet for the right size for shoes. I checked the belt length. I had to measure belts and then check online to see the belt. And I mean, I went through the process. Guys, I got the size for the dress. I got the size for the belt. I measured her shoes against the shoes online because I was buying all this online. I got a bag that would match. And so, I mean, I went as full on as I could to get the right gift for her. I got it in, wrapped it, made it pretty. I presented to her. I'm so excited. I'm right there getting ready to see her face. She opens one gift at a time, and her face is kind of, curious at first, and the demeanor goes from curious to a greater level of disappointment through every gift she opens. And I'm like, what's the deal? She even gets a little upset that I'm getting her this stuff. And I'm like, what's the deal? Why? And so she's upset. She's like, do you know how much this cost? Do you know that we could have done this? We're trying to save money. We want to do these things. And I'm like, we have jobs now. We're not living the life we were with our parents. And so that's my thought, right? And so granted, it was an expensive gift, but I mean, it was the first time I really kind of went all out for a gift. And it just fell so flat. To be honest, guys, to even be more candid with you, I returned half that stuff. The only thing she kept from the dress, from the belt, shoes, and bag, she returned the bag. That was one of the most expensive things. She returned the dress. She kept the belt and the shoes, and that was it. Those are the only things she kept. And to be honest, a little begrudgingly, because I was like, no, keep something, at least. And so I returned everything else. But as we matured in our emotional capacity and our ability to communicate, what we then realized was what I was speaking to her through that gift, which was my love language at the time. I was speaking to her financial insecurity because those gifts were expensive. It wasn't necessarily something that we have discussed on how much we would spend money on things, because she, if I grew up low income, she grew up even lower income than me. And so for her, money was like really, really important. Like it was scarce. And she still has a little bit of that going on, way more healthy now. Now she's just budget conscious. But yeah, me buying that gift for her really just kind of stirred up some things of emotional insecurity. Like, oh my gosh, like, can we afford this? And it was just crazy. I mean, we could afford it at the time, but it just welled up in her. I communicated to her financial insecurities, right? Or instability, because the gift was expensive. We didn't discuss it. We didn't plan it out. It was just came from left field for her. And so in hindsight, that is how she saw the gift. So because her financial thermostat was a certain way, even at that time, it was a lot more sensitive. That's how she saw the gift. And so it's not so much that it was the wrong thing to do. I could have got her something nice. I could have went to go buy her something really nice that was giraffe. But that's how she saw the gift. So we have to be careful as men what we do and how we pour into our wives, because the way they will likely receive the way we are loving them is through their glasses of how they see life. So we may be pouring love on them, but they're seeing it in some other way. And for me, I was just trying to serve her in the way I like to be served. And so that's why it was just a bad communication, right? So again, in hindsight, we got through it. It was like a huge blow up at the time. I was super offended. I felt disrespected. She was like, oh my gosh, she felt like I disrespected her financial insecurity, that I'm not loving her. So she received it as unloved. I received it as super disrespectful, and I'm mad. She's mad. We finally got over it. And so that is an example of making sure that you understand how your spouse wants to receive a gift, and you just need to talk about it. I would say that was the one thing that we have done to understand why that was such an issue, and we've learned from it. So that's really the important thing from that story. And so I hope you understood, or I hope you gleaned something from that story that I shared. Okay, so the next one is quality time, right? So this is one of my favorites. And I also think it's important to distinguish between quantity and quality. If you have quantity of time with your spouse, let's just say you're in the camp of you work with your spouse, or you see her very, very often. Like, I don't necessarily see my wife super often. We interact a lot, but I don't really get to hang out with my wife until probably about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the evening, right? We do wake up, she gets ready, I get ready, but in the morning, I wake up and go run. The next morning, she will wake up and go run, and we're off to the races. We get kids ready for school. She goes to work, I go to work, and we don't really see each other. Then by the time she gets home or I get home, we're making dinner. Then we have time with the kids, and then we put them to bed. And then again, we're kind of spent, and it's like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And so that's why we have to get really, really intentional about quality time. Quality and quantity, you need to make sure you understand the difference. It's an abundance of time together doesn't even mean you have quality time. You could have just spent time sitting next to your spouse and you're on social media the entire time. Or you could enjoy time watching a movie, but you just need to be intentional about that is what you want to do with that time together, right? So if that is what you want to do for quality time, then that's one thing. But if you're just, being a little passive about how you're spending time together, be very aware of those things. Now, with quality time, getting intentional about a date night can really, really make the difference. Maybe, I know a lot of couples love visiting different restaurants. And so what you can do is, to be honest, is something that I've thought about but hadn't been doing a very good job planning out, is picking a new restaurant every month that you go and visit. It's something that brings you close together because, one, you potentially have to plan for it together, so that brings quality time of what restaurants you want to go to. And then you have to be intentional about putting it on the calendar to go to these unique restaurants that you've never been to. So that's one. It could be museums that you want to go to, parks, national parks, state parks that you want to be intentional about going to visit. And I think some of those things where you have to have conversation would really help bring you together and build, through communication, a level of intimacy that's really, really hard to get in other capacities, right? Of course, going to dinner together, going to museums together, going to parks together causes you and almost requires you to talk, right? And if you are nervous about that, then, and I would recommend strongly, is putting together some questions, fun questions, and maybe some serious questions of a single topic that you want to talk about with your spouse, with your wife at that time, to be intentional about what you want to do. And you could even, prime the pump, if you will, and say, hey, I want to go on a date with you this day, and I want to talk about this thing. And so they don't feel like you're coming across with, this random information, or they're feeling just like completely taken by surprise with this important topic that you've been wanting to talk about, and you're using this quality time moment for that. Maybe you save it for a different time, and you save this quality time, date nights, museums, parks, for just fun, enjoyable conversation to really develop the friendship that every spouse or every husband and wife should have within their marriage. Is a quality friendship that makes it open. And I would say, for me, the closer I feel with my wife as is, my best friend, the more open I am to conversation. And when we are going to parks and we are going hiking at different state parks, that is when I am most open with her, when, we've had time to just kind of chill. And then, the ideas and thoughts and things that I've been thinking about through the day, through the week and month, come to the forefront, and then I'm able to share them with her, because it's not always at the forefront when we're just sitting and hanging in the evening after we put the kids to bed, because it's kind of the lingering thoughts of the day are kind of still left. But if you get intentional about what you want to do and what you want to talk about when you go to those places, it can dramatically improve the imprint and memories in your heart that you have when you spent time with your wife. And she will love it if you make every effort to have quality time moments like that. Okay, so this one is super big with my wife, and that is acts of service, right? So my wife loves it when I do things for her, and I'm gonna give you a quick story on acts of service. So my wife has been wanting to do this closet renovation, modest renovation. Really, it's a closet reorganization, right? And so we have this pretty sizable closet, and we've been talking about what to do, and I've been bringing ideas and telling her about this and that and what we could do, put some shelves. And so we settled on putting this panel wall on this one blank wall in the hall closet. And so we are like, all right, so we went through, we kind of mapped out how big, and we bought the panels and we bought these accessories for it. And we finally brought it in and ordered it, right? It came in through Amazon, of course, right? But what's funny is it kind of sat in the closet for like another 3, 4 weeks. And she was like, hey, when are you going to put the closet up? I really want my closet. I really want to organize it. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I finally made the time to do it, right? And I put it together and I did it, and she loved it. She loved it so much. It really ranked high with her. And I didn't think it would, to be honest, guys. I didn't really anticipate that kind of reaction. But at the same time, that also spoke to me like I didn't realize how important it was to her. And she expressed some things, but she didn't necessarily enforce like, hey, I want it done by this date, this time, on a calendar kind of thing. But when I finally made the effort to go and do it and do it to the best of my ability, and it looks nice, hung it right, leveled it, screwed it to studs, all that good stuff. Came out nice. She loved it. She spent, the following day organizing it. She has other ideas of what she wants to do. Now she has all these things. And so she just loves it. She loves organization. So it hit really well. That act of service, just like, oh my gosh, it just like really hit home in her heart. And what's interesting though is she also, because acts of service is really important to her, she loves serving our family. And one of her favorite ways to serve us is cooking for us. And she loves baking for us. She makes amazing banana bread. She makes amazing enchiladas with, rice. She cooks some shrimp and grits, some cheesy shrimp and grits. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so when she does those things, it almost incorporates two love languages in one, right? So for her, she loves serving us. But what I make sure and make every effort to do is when the dinner's done and we're hanging out as a family and the kids are around and she's there, I'm like, oh my gosh, love, I really loved the dinner you made us kids. Wasn't it so delicious? Let's all say thank you to mom. And I say it all together. I'm like, let's say thank you, mommy, for making us dinner. And so we all say it together and, we say thank you. But she loves that because it's being intentional about recognizing the service that she poured into the family. And I think if that's a love language that your spouse have, men or women, right? The husband or the wife, acknowledging that service on a scale that's appropriate to how they love receiving it. Oh my gosh, that hits home so much, right? That is a gift, right? And that is a quality moment that will also be imprinted. And if you take time to really get to know your spouse in that way, get to know their love language, how they want to give gifts and how they want to receive gifts, and help them with the way you love receiving gifts, right? How you have your love language and how you want to be loved through those 5 different ways. If you make an effort to talk about those things, then you will have you will be on track to have an amazing marriage. If you're having a tough marriage right now, I do think understanding your spouse's love language will help chip away at the clay that's kind of built around their heart. And doing that is a step in that direction to healing wounds and to building a bridge of communication and to again just having a strong marriage, strong intimacy. So, and of course, if you have if you're having a strong love language, man, it may lead to other things, if you know what I mean. So keep that in mind. So if you enjoyed this, just give me a like. If you enjoyed the breakdown of the different love languages and things like that, just let me know in the comments what your love language is, what your spouse love language is, and any other content that you would enjoy me putting out. So thanks so much, guys. Y'all have a blessed one, and talk to y'all soon.